The arrival of trouble. Daniel Cross had lived most of his adult life in high-risk zones where every second decision determined survival. When he finally settled into the quiet cul-de-sac of Willow Creek, he hoped for silence, for mornings with coffee and birdsong, for nights without sirens. His most treasured possession was not something expensive or flashy. It was his rugged black Jeep, an unmarked task force vehicle, outfitted with gear that bore silent witness to the countless operations he had led. But peace, as he would soon learn, wasn't easy in Willow Creek. From the first week, Karen Whitfield, the HOA president, had her eyes on him. Karen was known for her iron grip on the neighborhood. Flower beds had to be identical. Trash bins had to be hidden within 5 minutes of pickup. Even Christmas lights had to be white only. Colored bulbs were strictly forbidden. When Karen spotted Daniel's Jeep parked in his driveway, she frowned as though it were a personal attack. To her, it wasn't a law enforcement vehicle. It was an eyesore. "This neighborhood has standards," she told a fellow board member, her voice dripping with authority. "If he thinks he's going to park that thing here, he has another thing coming." Whispered warnings. Denegurs knew Karen's reputation all too well. Some had already been victims of her tirades. A young couple was fined for planting roses instead of tulips. An elderly man had been threatened with legal action because his mailbox leaned half an inch too far forward. One evening, while Daniel polished his Jeep, his next-door neighbor, Mrs. Allen, approached him hesitantly. "You seem like a good man," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "But you need to be careful. Karen, she doesn't let go once she decides something. She'll make your life miserable if she wants to." Daniel gave her a calm nod. He had dealt with far worse than HOA politics. Still, later that night, he lingered by the Jeep. His hand brushed across the hood as memories surfaced, nights when his unit had relied on this very vehicle to keep them alive. The Jeep was more than metal and tires. It was trust. It was sacrifice. It was the bond of brothers who never made it home. He whispered softly, "They won't take you. Not now. Not ever." The HOA's ultimatum. A week later, a letter arrived. Red stamped at the top. Violation notice. Karen's words were sharp, clinical, and threatening. "Remove the unsightly Jeep from the property within 48 hours or face escalating fines and forced towing at the owner's expense." Daniel walked straight to Karen's door, violation letter in hand. She opened it with her usual tight smile. "This neighborhood has rules, Mr. Cross. We can't have military trucks ruining property values." "It's not a truck," Daniel said evenly. "It's an active law enforcement vehicle. It's not leaving this driveway." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Law enforcement or not, I don't care. Rules are rules. If you think you're special, you're mistaken." For the first time, Daniel felt the old flicker of tension he had spent years burying. He wasn't angry yet, but he knew a battle was coming. The silent standoff. Daniel wrapped heavy duty chains around the Jeep's tires, securing it in place. The sound of clinking metal echoed through the cul-de-sac, catching Karen's attention. From her window, she watched with thinly veiled outrage. Inside her home, she muttered, "So he thinks he can outsmart me? He'll learn soon enough." Meanwhile, Daniel received a call from his former task force captain. "We may need the Jeep soon," the captain said. "Intel suggests a high-profile sting operation in this county. Keep it ready." Daniel's eyes hardened. Losing the Jeep now wasn't just about personal pride. It was about duty, about being prepared for a mission that might save lives. The night of the lock cutting. The storm rolled in with heavy winds and pouring rain. It was the perfect cover for Karen's plan. At midnight, she marched toward Daniel's driveway with a pair of bolt cutters, towing company in tow. Her umbrella struggled against the wind as she leaned down and snapped the heavy chains with 2 loud clinks. "There," she hissed triumphantly. "No one defies me." The tow truck reversed with flashing lights. Neighbors peeked from their windows, horrified but silent. They had all been victims of Karen's wrath. No one dared intervene. By the time Daniel returned from a late grocery run, his driveway was empty. The Jeep, gone. He dropped the bag of groceries on the ground, rain soaking through his clothes, his fists tightening. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He simply stood there in the storm, his face carved in stone, while his heart burned with a quiet, steady fire. The task force awakens. At dawn, Daniel was already in motion. He didn't just call the police, he contacted his task force unit. Within hours, unmarked SUVs swarmed into Willow Creek. Karen strutted into the HOA office for the morning meeting, smug as ever. "I finally took care of that Jeep," she announced, grinning at her silent board members. The grin faded when the doors burst open. Federal officers entered, their presence filling the room with authority. "Who authorized the removal of government property?" the lead agent demanded. Karen blinked. Government property? It was just an ugly Jeep. The room grew colder. Karen Zunhaveli. Interrogated in front of her own neighbors, Karen stumbled over excuses. It was against HOA rules. Ich vaste personal. The towing company owner revealed she had ordered the job without proper authority. Daniel entered the room, calm as ever. He didn't gloat. He simply explained in measured tones that the Jeep contained specialized communication gear needed for an operation scheduled that very night. This silence was grave. The HOA board squirmed in their seats. Neighbors, once cowed by Karen's dominance, now looked at her with disdain. Karen's empire was crumbling. Emotional fallout. The Jeep was recovered and returned. But Daniel stood in his garage staring at the broken chains, feeling the weight of betrayal. This wasn't about a vehicle. It was about power, about how easily someone could abuse authority in the name of rules. His neighbors approached, shamefaced. Families admitted they had been afraid to speak up against Karen for years. For the first time, Daniel wasn't just the new guy with the Jeep. He was a symbol of resistance. The HOA showdown. A week later, the HOA board called a special meeting. Dozens of residents attended, voices rising in frustration. Karen attempted to defend herself one last time, shouting about property values and neighborhood image. But the tide had turned. One by one, neighbors recounted her harassment, the fines, the threats, the unnecessary cruelty. When the vote was called, the decision was overwhelming. Karen was removed as HOA president. Her chair sat empty. For the first time in years, Willow Creek felt free. Resolution and reflection. Daniel parked the Jeep back in his driveway, this time without chains. Children circled around it in awe, asking about the gear and lights. Neighbors waved when he walked by, offering baked goods and thanks. He stood quietly beside the Jeep, hand resting on its hood. To him, it was never about winning a battle with Karen. It was about standing firm, about honoring the trust that vehicle carried. In the end, the Jeep had done more than serve the task force. It had revealed truth, broken tyranny, and restored a neighborhood spirit. Daniel finally smiled. For once, peace in Willow Creek wasn't just a hope, it was real.